of his tiny heart against mine, and I whispered promises I barely understood at the time, that I would protect him, care for him, and love him unconditionally. He responded with a soft, tentative nuzzle, a gesture that said he had chosen me just as surely as I had chosen him. From that day forward, Buddy became more than a pet. He became a living reminder of loyalty, trust, and the kind of love that cannot be measured but only felt. Every day with him promised new adventures, quiet moments, and lessons I never thought a dog could teach a human about resilience, patience, and the purest forms of companionship. The first weeks were a whirlwind of discoveries. Buddy learning to climb stairs, chase his own tail, and cautiously explore the backyard that suddenly felt enormous to him. Each small victory he celebrated with boundless enthusiasm, tail wagging so fast it was a blur, and little yips that sounded almost like laughter. I watched him navigate the world with a mixture of caution and courage, and in those moments, I realized how profoundly our lives would intertwine. Nights were the hardest. Buddy would whine softly in his little crate, and I would kneel beside him, stroking his fur until he relaxed into a contented sleep. Even as exhaustion weighed on me, those moments filled me with an inexplicable joy, a joy born of responsibility, connection, and the quiet understanding that we were learning to live together, not just as owner and pet, but as two souls who had found each other against all odds. As months passed, Buddy grew not just in size but in personality. He developed a gentle curiosity that made him both brave and cautious, eager yet thoughtful. I began noticing the subtle ways he communicated, the tilt of his head when he was puzzled, the gentle nudge when he sought comfort, and the way his eyes seemed to search mine for reassurance. We began our first long walks together, and with each step, I saw his confidence bloom. Neighborhood paths became little worlds of wonder, and every passerby was met with a wagging tail and a hopeful glance. Buddy had a way of making strangers smile, of softening even the hardest hearts, and I often caught myself marveling at how one small dog could carry so much warmth, love, and empathy in such a tiny frame. Winter brought its own challenges, and Buddy's enthusiasm for the cold surprised me. Snowflakes clung to his fur as he bounded through drifts, ears flopping, eyes shining with pure delight. One evening, as I trudged through the fresh snow after a long day, Buddy suddenly stopped, lifted his nose, and began barking insistently at something unseen. I followed him to a small, shivering kitten huddled beneath a bush, nearly frozen and trembling. Without hesitation, Buddy nudged the tiny creature toward me, his concern palpable, and together we carried the kitten inside, wrapping it in warm blankets. It was in that moment that I realized Buddy's heart extended far beyond our household. He had an instinctive compassion, a desire to protect and nurture, that seemed to radiate from every fiber of his being. Summer was a season of boundless energy and new experiences. I remember the first trip to the lake, Buddy tentatively stepping into the water, his reflection wavering, then leaping forward with reckless joy as he discovered the thrill of swimming. He chased ducks, barked at the water's edge, and rolled in the sand with sheer abandon, leaving trails of paw prints and laughter behind him. Every splash, every shiver, every wag of his tail was a reminder that life's simplest pleasures are often the most profound. I felt a deep, quiet gratitude for these moments, the silent lessons of presence, joy, and living fully in the now that Buddy seemed to teach without ever opening his mouth. There were times, of course, when Buddy's loyalty was tested, and mine too. Once, during a thunderstorm, he refused to leave my side, trembling violently as lightning illuminated the sky. I wrapped him in a blanket, whispered reassurances, and held him close, feeling the shared fear, the unspoken bond that made us inseparable. That night, as the storm raged outside, I realized that Buddy had taught me the meaning of unconditional support, that even in fear, pain, or uncertainty, the mere presence of someone who loves you can make the world feel less frightening, more bearable. He was my anchor in moments of doubt, a living embodiment of courage through devotion. Autumn brought walks along leafy trails, where the crunch of fallen leaves accompanied Buddy's eager exploration. He would dart ahead, only to circle back, ensuring I was following, his eyes glinting with joy and a touch of mischief. In those walks, I felt a profound sense of connection to the natural world, to life itself. Buddy had a way of teaching me patience, of reminding me that even in the rush of daily life, slowing down to notice small wonders, like the swirl of a falling leaf or the rustle of squirrels in the trees, could bring immense peace. Each paw print he left on the ground seemed to echo in my heart, a permanent imprint of love, curiosity, and companionship. There were quiet nights when Buddy would curl up beside me, resting his head on my lap as I read or worked. I would feel the steady rhythm of his breathing, the warmth of his fur, and I would think about how much life he had transformed, not just my routines but the very essence of my days. Every laugh, every tear, every triumph became shared. Every sadness seemed lighter with his gentle presence. Buddy had a remarkable ability to sense emotion, to offer comfort without words, and I often marveled at the depth of his understanding. It was as though he could see into the soul, offering a kind of love that was simple, yet infinitely profound. As Buddy matured, his loyalty never wavered. I recall one chilly evening when I returned home late, exhausted and disheartened after a particularly difficult day. Buddy greeted me with an enthusiasm that melted away all my worries, nuzzling my hands, pressing his head into my chest, and letting out soft whines that seemed to say, "I'm here. Everything is okay." In those moments, I understood something vital. Love is not always about grand gestures or words. Sometimes it is in the quiet, unwavering presence of someone who refuses to leave your side. Buddy embodied that love perfectly. Time moved forward, as it always does, and with it came changes and challenges that neither of us could have anticipated. Yet through every twist, every turn, every unexpected moment, Buddy remained the constant, the heartbeat beside mine, the small but mighty presence that filled the emptiness with warmth. His paw prints were not only on the floor, on the trails, or in the sand. They were etched deep into my heart, reminders that love, loyalty, and friendship can transcend words, age, and circumstance. With Buddy, I had learned that life's most profound lessons are often taught by those who cannot speak, but whose souls communicate more clearly than any human ever could. The days grew warmer, and Buddy discovered the joy of the garden. He would chase butterflies with endless determination, leaping and spinning with such grace that it seemed the world itself paused to watch him. I often sat on the porch, sipping my tea, observing him as he explored each corner of the yard, ears perked, tail wagging, and eyes sparkling with wonder. There was an innocence to his curiosity that reminded me how often we forget to marvel at life's simplest pleasures. In the evenings, when the sun dipped low and cast golden light across the grass, Buddy would come and rest his head on my lap, his breath warm and steady, and in those quiet moments, I felt a connection so deep it almost seemed like time itself had slowed down just for us. One rainy afternoon, Buddy and I ventured out on a walk through puddle-filled streets. He leaped into each puddle with uncontainable glee, sending droplets of water flying in every direction, as if celebrating life itself. I laughed until tears streamed down my face, my heart swelling with joy at the sheer exuberance radiating from him. Even strangers passing by couldn't resist smiling at his antics. That day I realized that happiness, much like Buddy, often comes in the most unexpected moments, drenched in simplicity and pure, unfiltered delight. Buddy had a knack for comforting those around him, and one chilly evening, a neighbor's child came to visit, upset over a lost toy. Without hesitation, Buddy approached the little one, nuzzling and pawing gently, until a faint smile broke through the tears. The child laughed, hugging Buddy tightly, and I stood nearby, quietly amazed at how effortlessly he brought solace. It wasn't just loyalty or playfulness, it was empathy, the kind that transcends species and teaches even adults the quiet power of compassion. In the following weeks, Buddy discovered a hidden talent, alerting me to subtle changes in my own emotions. On days when I felt anxious or overwhelmed, he would appear at my side, resting his head on my knee or placing a gentle paw on my hand, his eyes brimming with understanding. I often wondered how a creature with no words could offer so much wisdom, so much reassurance, yet he did it effortlessly. Each day with him taught me patience, mindfulness, and the profound truth that love is most genuine when given without expectation, silently and unwaveringly. Autumn returned with a burst of color, painting the world in shades of amber and crimson. Buddy reveled in the fallen leaves, tossing them into the air with his nose, chasing the wind and occasionally flopping down for a playful roll. I followed him through the woods behind our house, feeling the crunch beneath our feet and the crisp air filling my lungs. His joy was contagious. I felt lighter, freer, as if his energy had untangled the knots of daily stress. I realized then that Buddy was more than a companion. He was a guide, teaching me how to find happiness in motion, in curiosity, and in living fully with the present moment. There were nights when Buddy's warmth offered me the courage to face my deepest fears. Once, after receiving disheartening news about work, I sank into a chair, feeling the weight of disappointment pressing down. Buddy, sensing my distress, climbed onto the armrest and rested his chin on my shoulder. I ran my fingers through his fur, and in his silent presence, I felt a wave of calm wash over me. It was in these small, unspoken exchanges that I understood the essence of loyalty and love, not always grand gestures, but persistent, unwavering support when it's needed most. Winter returned with frost and early sunsets, yet Buddy's spirit never waned. Each morning he would eagerly greet the day, tail wagging, eyes bright, ready to explore the world despite the chill. We would walk through the snow-covered fields, his paws leaving tiny imprints that mirrored his zest for life. Occasionally he would pause, ears twitching, sniffing the air, as if communing with something unseen. I followed him quietly, reflecting on how much this little creature had transformed my life, teaching me joy, resilience, and the boundless capacity of the heart to love and protect. One evening, Buddy and I sat by the fireplace, warmth enveloping us as the wind howled outside. He rested his head on my lap, eyes half closed, and I traced the outline of his ears with my fingers. I thought about all the moments that had passed, the laughter, the tears, the quiet companionship that had defined our days. I realized that life with Buddy was a collection of fleeting moments strung together by trust, affection, and shared experiences. Each paw print, each nuzzle, each wag of his tail was a testament to the invisible threads that bound our souls together. Spring arrived, bringing with it new life and renewal. Buddy discovered a family of ducklings near the pond, watching them with careful interest, occasionally nudging one or the other to keep them safe. He became a guardian in miniature, vigilant yet gentle, ensuring the world around him was cared for, even in small ways. Observing him, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and awe. Here was a creature so small, yet capable of immense love and protection, a living embodiment of loyalty, courage, and compassion. As the months passed, our bond deepened in ways that words could scarcely capture. Buddy became my shadow, my comfort, my confidant, and my teacher. He reminded me that the most meaningful connections are not built on conversation, but on presence, trust, and shared experiences. Every glance, every nuzzle, every quiet moment together added another layer to the story of our lives. His paw prints were not only on the ground but embedded in my heart, leaving permanent marks of love, loyalty, and the irreplaceable joy of companionship. Buddy's curiosity often led us to unexpected adventures. One crisp morning, he darted into a narrow path I had never noticed before, ears perked and tail high. I followed cautiously, unsure of what lay ahead, and found ourselves in a hidden grove, sunlight streaming through the trees like liquid gold. Buddy sniffed every leaf, barked softly at the rustling squirrels, and occasionally looked back to ensure I was still close. In that quiet, magical place, I realized that Buddy had a way of uncovering beauty in the world that I might have overlooked on my own. His joy was contagious, and I laughed freely, grateful for the reminder that sometimes the best experiences are found by following the boundless curiosity of someone you love. Rainy days brought their own kind of companionship. Buddy loved the drizzle, shaking off droplets and splashing through puddles, his energy undimmed by the gray skies. I would watch him run, fur glistening, ears flopping with every leap, and feel a sense of awe at his ability to find delight even when the world seemed muted and damp. On those days, I learned to let go of my own worries, to join him in his playful abandon, and to appreciate the fleeting beauty of small joys that often go unnoticed. Buddy's perspective on life was simple yet profound. Happiness is often a choice, and it can be found in the smallest of moments. There were quiet nights when Buddy's presence was my anchor. After long days filled with stress and responsibilities, I would collapse onto the couch, and he would be there instantly, curling up beside me, resting his head on my lap. His warm, steady breathing was a reminder that even in silence, love could be expressed, and that companionship did not always require words. I began to notice the subtle ways he comforted me. A gentle nudge when my thoughts became too heavy, a paw on my knee when I seemed distracted or anxious. In those moments, I understood the true depth of his loyalty, a love that was unwavering, patient, and entirely selfless. Autumn brought a kaleidoscope of colors, and Buddy thrived amidst the fallen leaves. He would dart through piles of gold, crimson, and amber, leaping and spinning with the sheer delight of movement. His playful antics drew smiles from passers-by, and I felt pride and gratitude for having such a radiant spirit in my life. Those walks through the woods became sacred rituals, moments where the outside world faded, and it was just the two of us, the rustling leaves and the cool, crisp air. Buddy's joy and simple pleasures taught me to notice the beauty around me, to slow down, and to savor the fleeting, precious moments of life. On one particularly chilly evening, Buddy's devotion shone brighter than ever. I had received news that shook me deeply, and I sat in stunned silence, unsure of how to process it. Buddy climbed onto the chair beside me, resting his head gently on my shoulder, looking up at me with eyes full of concern and understanding. His presence, so steady and unwavering, reminded me that I was not alone. Through his silent empathy, I found comfort and courage, realizing that sometimes the most profound support comes not in words or advice, but in simple, faithful companionship. Buddy had a remarkable ability to sense other creatures in need. One summer afternoon, we stumbled upon a tiny injured bird near the path. He stood still, sniffing gently, his tail wagging slowly, as if he was offering reassurance. I carefully picked up the bird, and Buddy stayed close, nuzzling it softly and keeping watch as we brought it to safety. That day, I marveled at his instinctive compassion. It wasn't just loyalty to me. It was a broader kindness, a caring spirit that extended to all living beings. He was a reminder that empathy and love are not limited by size, species, or circumstance. Winter arrived again, cold and harsh, yet Buddy remained a beacon of warmth. He would sit by the frosted window watching the snowflakes fall with unwavering fascination, and occasionally paw at the glass as if trying to catch them. On the shortest, darkest days, his energy never dimmed. Each morning he greeted the world with the same enthusiasm, a reminder that even in difficult seasons, joy could be found in the simplest actions. Watching him, I learned resilience, not in human terms of struggle and triumph, but in the effortless way a soul could embrace life fully without fear or hesitation. There were moments of quiet reflection when Buddy and I would sit under the starry sky. I would talk to him about my fears, my hopes, my regrets, and though he could not reply, he listened intently, head tilted, eyes glinting in the moonlight. His calm presence was a balm, a steady heartbeat beside mine, reminding me that connection and understanding often transcend language. In those nights filled with silence and stars, I realized that love and loyalty are measured not in words, but in constancy, presence, and the unspoken promise of always being there. Buddy's playful nature remained undiminished, even as he grew older. He discovered a passion for rolling in the grass, chasing shadows, and exploring every nook and cranny of our home. His joy was infectious. It reached everyone around him, lightening moods and bringing laughter where there had been quiet or tension. I often caught myself following his lead, letting go of my worries and rediscovering the simple pleasures of life. Sunlight streaming through windows, the scent of fresh grass, the wind brushing against my face. Buddy's energy was a reminder that happiness is a practice, cultivated through attention, presence, and openness to the world's small wonders. In the quiet hours of the evening, Buddy would settle beside me, resting his head on my feet or curling close to my side. His steady breathing, the warmth of his body, and the subtle weight of his trust created a profound sense of belonging. In those moments, I felt the depth of the bond we shared, an unspoken understanding that we were intertwined in ways beyond explanation. His pawprints were not just on the earth, but etched permanently on my heart, leaving marks of devotion, joy, and love that no passage of time could erase. Spring arrived with a gentle warmth, coaxing new life from the earth. Buddy was enthralled by the blooming flowers, sniffing each blossom with fascination, occasionally rolling in the soft grass, leaving trails of pawprints that shimmered in the morning dew. His excitement was contagious, and I found myself laughing more freely, savoring the simple, vibrant pleasures of life through his eyes. We spent hours wandering the fields, chasing the sunlight, and discovering hidden nooks filled with the scent of earth and growth. Buddy's unbridled joy reminded me that life's beauty often lies in noticing the details others overlook. The flutter of a butterfly's wings, the hum of bees, or the gentle rustle of leaves in a breeze. One afternoon we encountered a lost child near the park. Tears streaked down their face and panic had taken hold. Buddy approached slowly, tail wagging, ears lowered in gentle reassurance. The child reached out hesitantly, and Buddy nuzzled their hand softly, offering comfort without fear. I knelt beside them, guiding the child back to safety, but I couldn't help marveling at Buddy's instinctive empathy. He seemed to understand vulnerability in a way that transcended words, teaching me that love and compassion are active, living things expressed in the simplest gestures. Buddy had a favorite spot by the riverbank where he would sit for hours, watching the water flow. He would tilt his head as ducks paddled past, occasionally barking at a passing fish, his tail sweeping the ground like a metronome of pure contentment. I would sit beside him, feeling the sun warm my face and the wind rustle his fur, and we shared a quiet companionship that needed no words. It was in these moments, silent yet profound, that I realized Buddy had become more than a pet. He was a mirror to my own soul, reflecting joy, patience, and the beauty of shared stillness. There were days when Buddy's loyalty became almost tangible, a comforting weight on my chest or the soft press of his head against my shoulder. I remember one evening, exhausted from work and burdened by worry, collapsing into a chair. Buddy leapt onto my lap, sighing contentedly, eyes meeting mine as if to say, "I'm here. Everything will be all right." His presence dissolved tension I hadn't even realized I carried, and I found clarity in the simplicity of his steadfast devotion. It struck me that sometimes the most profound comfort comes not from solutions or words, but from a presence that never wavers. Summer brought with it the adventures Buddy adored. We explored new trails, visited lakes, and ventured into fields where the grass grew tall. Buddy would dart ahead, then circle back, ensuring I followed, his ears twitching at every sound, his nose guiding us with quiet assurance. He thrived in these excursions, his enthusiasm uncontainable, reminding me that exploration is as much about joy as it is discovery. His zest for life was a lesson I carried home, to approach each day with curiosity, courage, and the willingness to embrace whatever came our way. One rainy night, as thunder rumbled across the sky, Buddy's loyalty shone through in a way I will never forget. He refused to leave my side, trembling yet determined, placing his body between me and the storm as though shielding me from the fear that loomed in the shadows. I wrapped him in a blanket, murmuring reassurances, and felt a surge of gratitude for this small creature who had become my protector as much as my companion. In those hours I realized that love's true power is often measured in silent acts of courage, in shared vulnerability, and in the unwavering presence of someone who refuses to abandon you in fear. Autumn returned, painting the world in fiery hues. Buddy reveled in the season, leaping through piles of fallen leaves, ears flopping and tail wagging furiously. The air smelled of wood smoke and earth, and we spent long afternoons wandering wooded paths, discovering acorns, watching squirrels scurry and basking in the gentle golden light. Buddy's happiness was infectious. It reminded me that contentment is not a destination, but a way of being, cultivated through awareness, gratitude, and playful engagement with the world. His simple delight in the season taught me to notice the beauty often overlooked in the rush of daily life. There were quiet nights when Buddy rested his head on my lap as I worked or read, a gentle weight anchoring me to the moment. His steady breathing was a rhythm that eased my mind, and his soft, warm presence reminded me that I was never truly alone. These nights, filled with soft murmurs of comfort and subtle nudges, revealed the depth of his devotion, a devotion not born of obligation, but of pure love. In his eyes, I saw a reflection of my own heart, learning to open, to trust, and to embrace the unspoken connections that define life's most meaningful relationships. Buddy's compassion extended beyond our little household. One day, we found a stray kitten hiding beneath a bush, scared and shivering. Buddy approached slowly, sniffing the tiny creature, then nudging it gently toward me. Together, we brought the kitten inside, wrapped it in blankets, and watched as Buddy remained close, keeping watch, ensuring it felt safe. His instinctive kindness reminded me that empathy is universal, transcending size, species, and circumstance. He taught me that love is action as much as feeling, expressed through care, protection, and unwavering attention to the needs of those around us. As the seasons continued their endless cycle, our bond only grew deeper. Buddy became my constant companion, my confidant, my joy, and my teacher. Each day, each walk, each quiet moment together added another layer to our shared story. His paw prints were not only visible on trails and floors, but imprinted permanently on my heart, a reminder of loyalty, love, and the beauty of a life shared. Buddy had transformed my existence, revealing that the most profound relationships are not defined by words but by presence, trust, and the unspoken, enduring promise of companionship. Buddy had a way of noticing things that I often overlooked. One morning, as sunlight filtered softly through the curtains, he nudged me toward the window with urgent insistence. Outside, a tiny fawn had wandered close to the edge of the woods, unsure and trembling. Buddy remained alert, yet gentle, his posture protective, yet calm. I watched him as he guided me to ensure the fawn's safety, marveling at his intuitive understanding of the world. In that moment, I realized that his loyalty and compassion extended far beyond our home. He had a way of embracing life's vulnerable moments, teaching me the quiet power of attentiveness, patience, and care. Summer heat brought long afternoons in the garden, where Buddy would lie sprawled in the grass, ears flicking at the buzz of bees, eyes half closed in contentment. Occasionally he would leap up, chasing a butterfly or a falling leaf, only to return moments later, curling beside me as if to say, "I am here, always." His presence grounded me, teaching me that serenity is not the absence of motion or excitement, but the comfort of knowing someone steadfast stands beside you through all of life's fleeting joys and challenges. With him, even silence became a shared language, rich with understanding and trust. One particularly crisp autumn evening, Buddy discovered a hidden hollow in the woods, a tiny den where squirrels had stored acorns. He approached cautiously, sniffing and observing, before turning to me as if to check that I was watching. I knelt beside him, amazed at his curiosity and gentle attentiveness. In his small, instinctive gestures, I found a reflection of a larger lesson, that life's richness often lies in exploration, mindfulness, and the simple act of noticing what surrounds us. Buddy's world was alive with discovery, and through him, I learned to see life with the same wonder. There were nights when Buddy's presence became a source of profound comfort. During moments of anxiety, he would climb quietly onto my lap, resting his head on my shoulder, letting his warmth seep into my bones. The rhythmic cadence of his breathing and the gentle weight of his trust eased my thoughts and reminded me that companionship is both an anchor and a balm. It struck me that love is often felt most deeply in these quiet, wordless exchanges, where mutual presence communicates far more than speech ever could. Winter brought a blanket of snow, transforming the world into a glittering wonderland. Buddy approached it with cautious curiosity at first, then with uncontainable delight, racing through drifts, leaping, rolling, and leaving a trail of paw prints that marked our shared joy. On some days he would pause mid-leap, ears raised and eyes bright, sensing the unseen rhythms of the winter woods. I followed him quietly, heart full of admiration, realizing that his boundless energy and fearless exploration reflected a profound engagement with life, a reminder that every season holds moments of wonder if we only choose to notice. During a rainy afternoon, we took shelter beneath the branches of an old oak. Buddy lay close, shivering slightly, but with a calm vigilance that made me feel protected despite the storm's roar. His eyes, dark and earnest, met mine, conveying a sense of empathy that I could never fully explain. In that shared stillness, I felt a surge of gratitude for his unwavering devotion. He was more than a dog. He was a guide through fear, a companion in sorrow, and a reminder that love can transform even the harshest storms into moments of connection and reassurance. Spring returned, bringing with it vibrant growth and renewal. Buddy explored each blooming flower with awe, his nose twitching as he inhaled the scent of life all around him. He chased insects with gentle playfulness, sometimes pouncing only to flop onto his side in exhaustion and joy. I would watch him, laughing quietly, marveling at his ability to find delight in even the smallest things. Through Buddy, I learned that happiness is not a distant goal but a series of moments, and that approaching life with curiosity and joy can reveal wonders even in the most ordinary days. One evening, I noticed Buddy's gaze fixed on a bird struggling to escape a tangle of branches. Without hesitation, he moved closer, nose twitching, gentle paws guiding the bird toward freedom. I assisted, but I couldn't help marveling at his instinctive understanding of the fragility of life. He approached each creature, each moment, with a balance of care, curiosity, and respect. Buddy taught me that compassion is both action and intention, a deliberate choice expressed in the quiet, thoughtful attention we give to those around us. There were quiet nights by the fireplace when Buddy would curl beside me, his body warm, his breathing steady. I would run my fingers along his fur, feeling the rise and fall of his chest, and in those moments, a profound sense of peace settled over me. His loyalty, his companionship, and the simple rhythm of his presence reminded me that love does not need words. It is lived, shared, and felt deeply in the small, unremarkable acts of constancy. Every heartbeat beside mine reinforced the truth that life's most meaningful connections are forged through enduring presence and unwavering devotion. As time passed, our bond only deepened. Buddy became more than a pet. He was a mirror of my emotions, a teacher of patience, joy, and empathy, and a source of boundless love. His paw prints, literal and metaphorical, marked every corner of our shared life, a testament to the quiet ways in which he transformed my existence. I realized that through him, I had learned to live fully, to love deeply, and to recognize the extraordinary in the everyday. Each step he took left a memory etched in my heart, a lasting reminder that some bonds are eternal and some loves transcend words, existing purely in the shared rhythm of two connected souls. Buddy had a way of sensing even the subtlest shifts in my mood. On days when I felt overwhelmed, he would appear quietly at my side, resting his head on my lap or nudging my hand with his nose, his dark eyes filled with understanding. It was as if he could read the unspoken language of my heart, offering reassurance and silent companionship when I needed it most. I marveled at his intuition, realizing that loyalty is not only about presence in joyous times, but also about standing steadfast when life feels heavy, offering comfort without expectation or demand. Summer afternoons became our adventures, long walks that stretched into evenings filled with golden light and laughter. Buddy would dart ahead, sniffing every bush, investigating every sound, yet always circling back to ensure I was following. His joy was infectious. It reminded me to slow down, to savor the moment, and to approach life with curiosity and courage. I began to see the world through his eyes, full of small wonders, hidden paths, and fleeting moments of delight. Buddy taught me that joy is not found in grand gestures but in attentive presence, in shared curiosity, and in the simple act of noticing what surrounds us. One chilly autumn evening, Buddy discovered a tiny hedgehog struggling along the path. He approached with cautious interest, sniffing and circling before nudging it gently toward safety. I helped, and together we ensured the little creature found shelter. Watching him, I realized that empathy is not limited by size or species. Buddy's instinctive kindness revealed the depth of his heart, and I understood that true compassion is a quiet, deliberate act, expressed through gentle attention and unwavering care for those who cannot ask for it. There were nights when Buddy's presence became my anchor. I recall one evening after receiving troubling news. My heart was heavy, and my mind raced with worry. Buddy climbed onto the chair beside me, resting his head on my shoulder. The simple warmth of his body, the rhythmic cadence of his breathing, and the trust in his eyes calmed my anxiety. In his silent companionship, I found clarity and comfort, understanding that love is not always loud or demonstrative. It is often quiet, steady, and unwavering, offering strength simply by existing beside you. Winter brought snow that transformed our world into a sparkling wonderland. Buddy approached the frozen landscape with both caution and excitement, leaping into drifts, rolling, and chasing the occasional snowflake that landed on his nose. I followed him through the fields, laughing at his antics, feeling the crisp air fill my lungs and marveling at the effortless joy he radiated. Even in the harshest conditions, he found delight, teaching me that resilience and happiness can coexist, and that life's beauty is magnified when approached with enthusiasm and presence. One rainy afternoon, Buddy and I found shelter beneath the branches of an old oak. He lay close, trembling slightly from the chill, yet calm in his vigilance. His dark eyes met mine, and I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for his steadfast loyalty. In those moments, I realized that devotion is not always about action. It is often expressed in quiet attention, presence, and the willingness to share the weight of life's storms, both literal and metaphorical. Spring returned, carrying with it blossoms and new life. Buddy explored every flower with gentle curiosity, sniffing petals, chasing insects, and rolling in the fresh grass. His boundless energy reminded me to embrace the world with wonder and to find joy in the simplest things. Through him, I learned that happiness is cultivated by engaging fully with life, noticing details, and celebrating the small moments that often pass unnoticed. Buddy's delight in the ordinary transformed my perspective, teaching me to approach every day with gratitude and playful curiosity. One evening, I noticed Buddy fixated on a bird trapped in a tangle of branches. He approached gently, pawing and nudging, guiding it toward freedom. I assisted, but his instinctive care had been the guiding force. I realized that true compassion is active. It requires presence, attention, and the courage to intervene when others are in need. Buddy embodied this truth effortlessly, teaching me that love is not only felt, but enacted in the quiet, deliberate care we extend to the world around us. There were nights spent by the fireplace when Buddy curled up beside me, his warmth and steady breathing filling the room with peace. I would run my fingers through his fur, feeling the gentle rise and fall of his chest, and I was reminded that love is not always about words or actions. It is lived, shared, and felt in quiet constancy. His devotion anchored me, and his presence became a measure of life's richness, a reminder that the deepest connections are forged through trust, care, and enduring companionship. As the seasons continued to turn, our bond grew ever stronger. Buddy was no longer just a dog. He was a companion, a teacher, and a source of unwavering love. Every paw print, every nuzzle, every shared glance left an imprint on my heart. Through him, I learned the true meaning of loyalty, joy, and empathy. He had shown me that life's most profound lessons are often delivered in silence, in the rhythm of breathing, the weight of a head on your lap, and the unspoken promise of always being there. Each step he took left a memory, each wag of his tail a story, each glance a testament to a love that transcends words and lasts forever. Buddy's mornings were always filled with eager anticipation. The moment sunlight crept through the curtains, he would stretch his paws, yawn widely, and nuzzle me awake. Even in the quiet, ordinary moments of breakfast or a morning walk, his joy was palpable. He greeted the day with enthusiasm that I envied, reminding me to begin each day with gratitude and curiosity. Sometimes I would pause to watch him chase the smallest shadows or sniff every patch of grass, marveling at how fully he immersed himself in life. His presence turned mundane routines into small adventures, each moment imbued with laughter, wonder, and companionship. One late summer afternoon, we discovered a narrow stream hidden behind an overgrown grove. Buddy, ever the explorer, splashed eagerly into the shallow water, pawing at smooth stones and sending ripples across the surface. He barked with delight, and I couldn't help but laugh at his sheer exuberance. Watching him, I was reminded of the beauty in small discoveries, the hidden corners of the world that often go unnoticed, waiting for someone willing to explore them with curiosity and joy. Buddy's energy taught me that life's treasures are often found in unexpected places, and that enthusiasm can transform even the simplest journey into a memorable adventure. There were quiet evenings when Buddy's presence became my refuge. After particularly long or difficult days, he would rest his head on my knee, eyes glimmering with warmth and understanding. The rhythm of his breathing, the weight of his trust, and the subtle movements of his tail offered a solace words could never provide. In those moments, I realized that love's power often lies not in grand gestures, but in silent, unwavering presence. Buddy had a way of grounding me, reminding me that companionship is an active, living force, woven from shared moments, trust, and constancy. Autumn's crisp air brought endless exploration. Buddy reveled in the fallen leaves, leaping, rolling, and sometimes simply lying still as the rustling foliage danced around him. Each new smell, each rustling sound, each flutter of a bird's wings captivated him. I followed him through the wooded paths, laughing at his antics, and felt a quiet sense of awe at his ability to find delight in life's simplest details. His boundless curiosity and infectious joy became a lens through which I began to see the world differently, noticing beauty I had long ignored, and valuing presence over perfection. One rainy evening, Buddy's loyalty shone in a profound way. As thunder rolled across the sky and lightning illuminated the darkened landscape, he refused to leave my side. Trembling yet determined, he pressed close, seeking to shield and comfort simultaneously. I wrapped him in a blanket, murmuring reassurances, and felt a deep gratitude for his steadfast companionship. That night I understood that courage and love often coexist quietly. Buddy had shown me that true devotion is not measured by dramatic acts, but by the simple, persistent act of standing together, even through fear and uncertainty. Winter arrived, blanketing the world in frost. Buddy approached each day with the same eagerness and joy, despite the cold. We would walk along snow-dusted paths, his paws leaving tiny imprints, ears perked, nose twitching at the scents carried by the crisp air. Occasionally, he would pause mid-step, gazing into the distance as if communing with some unseen presence. I followed him silently, realizing that his attentiveness to the world around him was more than curiosity. It was a lesson in mindfulness, patience, and appreciation for the fleeting beauty in every moment. During one quiet spring morning, Buddy discovered a small injured bird near the edge of our yard. He approached gently, nose twitching, and remained patient as I carefully helped the bird to safety. Watching him, I realized that compassion is a language everyone can understand, transcending species, words, and circumstance. Buddy's gentle vigilance reminded me that empathy is not only feeling, it is action, deliberate and consistent, offered without expectation or reward. Through him, I learned the depth of kindness that can exist in even the smallest beings. There were nights when Buddy and I would sit by the fireplace, enveloped in the warm glow of the flames. He would curl close, resting his head on my lap, eyes heavy but alert, breathing steady and calm. In those quiet hours, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The room was filled with the intangible presence of trust, loyalty, and enduring love. Buddy had a way of teaching that the most profound connections do not rely on speech or spectacle. They are cultivated through presence, devotion, and the quiet sharing of life's rhythms. Summer evenings were filled with laughter and gentle mischief. Buddy would chase fireflies across the yard, occasionally pausing to look back at me as if to invite participation. His joy was infectious. Even the air seemed lighter in his presence. I began to understand that happiness is often a choice, nurtured by attention to the present and by embracing the small wonders that surround us. Buddy's simple, unrestrained delight reminded me that life is most meaningful when approached with curiosity, playfulness, and gratitude for each shared moment. As time passed, the bond between us deepened in ways that words could scarcely capture. Buddy had become more than a companion. He was a reflection of my own heart, a teacher of patience, empathy, and joy, and a source of unwavering love. Every paw print, every nuzzle, every glance left an indelible mark on my soul. Through him, I learned that life's most meaningful relationships are forged not through words, but through presence, loyalty, and shared experience. Each step he took left a memory, each wag of his tail a story, each heartbeat a reminder that love, in its purest form, transcends language and lasts forever. Buddy had a remarkable way of sensing my moods, often before I even realized them myself. On days when I felt restless or uneasy, he would quietly appear at my side, resting his head on my lap, eyes attentive and full of warmth. His presence alone brought calm, as though he could absorb my worries and transform them into quiet reassurance. I began to notice that his loyalty was not limited to joyful moments. It shone brightest during times of uncertainty and fear. Through him, I learned that love is as much about being present in silence as it is about celebrating in laughter. One bright spring morning, Buddy discovered a hidden path behind the garden, overgrown and almost forgotten. He darted forward with fearless curiosity, ears twitching and tail high, beckoning me to follow. The path led us to a small clearing, sunlight streaming down in golden beams, casting shadows that danced across the mossy ground. Buddy explored every nook, sniffing and pawing gently at the earth, returning occasionally to check that I was close. I watched him with awe, realizing that he taught me more about joy, exploration, and the simple beauty of life than any lesson I had ever learned. Summer brought long, playful afternoons with Buddy bounding through fields and chasing butterflies. Each movement was a testament to his exuberance, every bark an expression of delight. I laughed freely as I watched him roll in the grass, leap into the air, and chase the smallest shadows with unrestrained joy. His enthusiasm reminded me that happiness is not a distant goal, but a series of moments to be embraced fully. With Buddy, even the ordinary became extraordinary, filled with wonder and laughter. One chilly autumn evening, we discovered a tiny hedgehog struggling along the edge of the woods. Buddy approached cautiously, sniffing and circling the small creature with curiosity and care. I helped guide the hedgehog to a safe spot, but Buddy's gentle vigilance had been the heart of the rescue. Watching him, I understood that empathy is not limited by size, species, or circumstance. It is the deliberate attention we give to those who cannot ask for help. Buddy's instinctive kindness showed me that love is active, patient, and gentle, expressed in countless small gestures. There were nights when Buddy became my anchor. I remember one particularly difficult evening when the weight of the day left me exhausted and anxious. Buddy climbed onto my lap, resting his head on my shoulder, eyes meeting mine with steady understanding. The warmth of his body, The rhythm of his breathing and the trust in his gaze brought a calm I could not find elsewhere. In that moment, I realized that love is often most profound, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, steadfast presence that reassures without words, that supports without asking, that endures simply because it exists. Winter covered the world in a glittering blanket of snow, yet Buddy approached each day with boundless excitement. He would bound across the drifts, paws leaving tiny prints in the frost, ears perked and tail wagging like a metronome of joy. Occasionally, he would pause mid-leap, gaze toward the distant woods, sniffing the crisp air, seemingly communing with the quiet world around him. I followed silently, marveling at his energy, resilience, and the way he embraced each moment. Through Buddy, I learned that joy and perseverance are intertwined, that life's beauty is present in every season, if only we open ourselves to it. During a spring afternoon, Buddy discovered a small injured bird near the fence. He approached slowly, nose twitching, observing the delicate creature. I helped it to safety, but Buddy's calm, attentive presence had been the gentle guide. Watching him, I understood that empathy requires both sensitivity and action. He taught me that love is expressed in caring for those who cannot speak, in noticing the vulnerable and in responding with patience and gentleness. His example reshaped the way I viewed the world, showing me that compassion is an active, deliberate practice. There were quiet nights by the fireplace when Buddy curled up beside me, resting his head on my lap, his breathing steady and calm. I would run my fingers through his fur, feeling the rise and fall of his chest, and experience a profound sense of peace. The room was filled not just with warmth, but with an intangible comfort, born of trust, loyalty, and enduring love. Buddy had shown me that the most profound connections are forged in the rhythm of shared presence, in the simple constancy of caring without expectation. Summer evenings were filled with gentle adventures. Buddy chased fireflies across the yard, sometimes pausing to glance back at me, inviting me to share in the delight. I laughed and followed, reveling in his joy and realizing that life is best lived through shared experiences, through laughter, curiosity, and the unbridled pursuit of happiness. Buddy's playful spirit reminded me to embrace wonder, to notice the details often overlooked, and to allow myself to be fully present in each fleeting, joyful moment. As time passed, Buddy's presence became inseparable from my own sense of self. He was not merely a companion, but a reflection of my heart, a teacher of patience, empathy, and joy. Every pawprint, every glance, every gentle nudge left an imprint, forming an invisible tapestry of love and devotion. Through him, I learned that life's most meaningful relationships are built not on words but on shared moments, unwavering presence, and the quiet, persistent proof of loyalty and care. Each step he took left a memory, each heartbeat a story, each wag of his tail a testament to a bond mornings were always filled with quiet excitement. As the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, he would stretch, yawn, and give me a gentle nudge as if to say, "The world is waiting, let's greet it together." Even in the routine of breakfast or morning walks, his enthusiasm transformed the ordinary into something magical. He would sniff every blade of grass, chase the smallest moving shadow, and occasionally return to me with a triumphant bark as if to declare, "Look at this world, it's amazing." Through him, I learned to greet each day with gratitude, curiosity, and the simple joy of being alive. One spring afternoon, Buddy led me to a hidden trail behind the old oak trees. The path was narrow and overgrown, yet he navigated it fearlessly, ears twitching, nose quivering with excitement. Sunlight dappled through the branches, creating patterns of gold and green on the mossy floor. Buddy explored every nook, his paws padding softly, occasionally glancing back to make sure I was following. I realized that he had a unique ability to find hidden beauty in the world, teaching me to notice what I might have otherwise overlooked. In his presence, exploration became an act of wonder and joy. Summer brought long, playful afternoons filled with laughter and light. Buddy chased butterflies across the fields, rolled in the soft grass, and leaped into the air with unrestrained delight. Each bark, each joyful movement reminded me to embrace the present fully. Watching him, I understood that happiness is not found in grand achievements but in small moments. Sunlight on leaves, the warmth of a breeze, the thrill of a sudden discovery. His joy was infectious, urging me to release worries and simply experience life alongside him. Autumn's crisp air and golden leaves created a perfect backdrop for our adventures. Buddy would leap into piles of fallen leaves, ears flopping, tail wagging furiously, and I would follow, laughing at his antics. He reveled in the sights, smells, and sounds of the season, and I felt a profound gratitude for these shared experiences. Each step we took on the leafy trails was more than a walk. It was a lesson in curiosity, mindfulness, and appreciating the beauty in life's fleeting moments. Buddy's energy taught me to approach each day with awareness and delight. During a rainy evening, Buddy's loyalty became profoundly evident. Thunder rolled across the sky, and lightning illuminated the darkened room, yet he refused to leave my side. He trembled slightly, but his gaze remained steady, full of protective concern. I wrapped him in a blanket, whispering soothing words, and felt a surge of gratitude for his unwavering presence. That night, I realized that courage and devotion are not always measured in dramatic acts. They are often expressed quietly, persistently, and with love that asks for nothing in return. Winter arrived and snow transformed our surroundings into a sparkling wonderland. Buddy bounded through the drifts with relentless enthusiasm, ears perked, tail sweeping like a pendulum of joy. Occasionally he would pause, nose twitching at the scent of the frozen woods, and I would follow him in awe. His energy and curiosity never waned, reminding me that resilience and delight can coexist, even in the harshest seasons. Through him, I learned to embrace life fully, noticing beauty and wonder in every step, every snowflake. One spring morning, every fleeting moment of the day, Buddy discovered a small injured bird near the fence. He approached slowly, observing carefully, his instincts gentle and precise. I helped guide it to safety, but his vigilance and care had set the tone. Watching him, I understood that true empathy is both attentive and active, expressed through deliberate care. Buddy taught me that love is most profound when we attend to the needs of others with patience, gentleness, and unwavering attention, and that the smallest beings can inspire the deepest lessons in compassion. There were nights spent beside the fireplace when Buddy would curl up next to me, his steady breathing a quiet rhythm of comfort. I would stroke his fur, feeling the warmth and weight of his trust, and realize that love does not always require words. It thrives in presence, consistency, and devotion. Buddy's companionship reminded me that the most meaningful bonds are forged through shared silence, steady care, and the simple act of being there day after day. Summer evenings were alive with playful energy. Buddy chased fireflies across the yard, sometimes pausing to look back at me with bright eyes, as if inviting me to join in the fun. I laughed, running after him, letting the world fall away, and felt my spirit lift alongside his. He taught me that joy is not a distant prize but a practice, cultivated through curiosity, attention, and the willingness to immerse oneself fully in the moment. Buddy's laughter-like barks reminded me to embrace wonder and delight wherever it may appear. As the years passed, our bond deepened into something almost indescribable. Buddy was no longer merely a companion. He was a teacher, a mirror of my own emotions, and a source of unwavering love. Every paw print, every nuzzle, every glance left an indelible mark on my heart. Through him, I learned that life's richest relationships are not defined by words, but by presence, loyalty, and shared experiences. Each step he took left a memory, each heartbeat a story, each wag of his tail a testament to a love that transcends time, leaving paw prints forever etched on the soul. Buddy had an uncanny way of sensing my inner thoughts, even when I tried to hide them. On days filled with unease or tension, he would quietly appear at my side, pressing his warm head against me, eyes dark with understanding. There was no judgment, no expectation, only an unwavering presence that reminded me I was never truly alone. In those moments, I realized that loyalty is not only about companionship during happiness, but also about steadfastness in life's storms. Through Buddy, I learned that love's quiet power often speaks louder than words ever could. One bright morning, Buddy led me to a small clearing I had never noticed before. Sunlight spilled across wildflowers and the air was rich with the scent of earth and blossoms. Buddy sniffed every leaf, explored every stone, and occasionally returned to ensure I was following. The simplicity of the moment struck me. Life's most profound beauty often hides in plain sight, waiting for someone attentive enough to notice. Buddy had a way of turning ordinary days into extraordinary experiences, teaching me the value of curiosity. Buddy became inseparable from my life. Summer brought long, joyful afternoons where Buddy's energy, a reflection of my own heart. He chased butterflies across fields, and empathy, rolled gleefully in the grass of unwavering love, at invisible creatures only he seemed to see. Every gentle nuzzle, his delight was contagious. Every glance lifting my spirits and inviting me to leave worries behind. Who I was and how I viewed the world. I began to understand that happiness is not something to be pursued, that life's deepest connections are formed through presence, cultivated in loyalty, playful engagement, and the enduring gift of shared observation and shared joy. Each step he took left memories Buddy's etched into my enthusiasm became a lens through which I could rediscover the world. Each heartbeat a reminder that love in its purest with its crisp air and transcends words and time. Buddy delighted in leaping into piles of fallen foliage, ears flopping, tail wagging furiously, reveling in the scents and sounds of the season. I followed him along winding trails, laughing at his antics, and feeling a quiet sense of gratitude for his presence. Each day with him was a lesson in attentiveness, joy, and the fleeting beauty of nature's cycles. Through his eyes, I learned to value presence over perfection, awareness over haste, and the quiet satisfaction of being fully alive in each moment. One rainy evening, Buddy's loyalty revealed itself in profound ways. Thunder rolled across the sky, and lightning illuminated our home, yet he refused to leave my side. Shivering yet determined, he pressed close, offering comfort through proximity alone. I wrapped him in a blanket, murmuring soothing words, and realized that devotion is often measured not in heroic acts, but in steady, unyielding presence. Buddy's courage and love were quiet, persistent, and transformative, offering reassurance without demand, guidance without words. Winter transformed the world into a sparkling wonderland. Buddy approached each day with enthusiasm, bounding through snowdrifts, ears perked, tail sweeping like a pendulum of joy. Occasionally he paused mid-leap, sniffing the crisp air, attentive to the subtle rhythms of the frozen woods. I followed him silently, awestruck by his resilience, curiosity, and unabated delight. Through him, I learned that perseverance and joy are intertwined, and that life's beauty can be found in even the harshest seasons when approached with openness and wonder. During one spring morning, Buddy discovered a small injured bird near the edge of our yard. He approached gently, observing carefully, his instincts guiding him to act with care. I helped the bird to safety, but his attentiveness had set the tone. In that moment, I understood that true empathy requires both awareness and action, expressed through deliberate care. Buddy taught me that love is demonstrated through attention to others' needs, through patience, and through consistent, gentle intervention in the world around us. There were quiet nights when Buddy would curl up beside me by the fireplace, his steady breathing a comforting rhythm that filled the room with peace. I stroked his fur, feeling the rise and fall of his chest, and realized that love does not always need words. It thrives in presence, in unwavering constancy, and in shared silence. Buddy's companionship reminded me that the most meaningful connections are formed in trust, patience, and the quiet rhythm of everyday life. Summer evenings were filled with playful adventures. Buddy chased fireflies across the yard, pausing to look back at me with bright, inviting eyes. I ran after him, laughter spilling freely, and felt my heart lift alongside his. He taught me that happiness is a practice, cultivated through curiosity, engagement, and an openness to delight in small, fleeting moments. Buddy's joy reminded me that life's richness is often measured not in grand accomplishments but in shared wonder, laughter, and attentive presence.